Welcome to Book Nook, the coziest place for book lovers to chat about the stories that shape us. I'm Marie.
And I'm Barbara, and each episode we dive into the books we love, the ones that challenge us, and everything in between. Ready to talk books? It's time to turn the page. Welcome to a special episode of Book Nook. How are you, Mary?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm great. It's tea time here in England, so I have my tea with a splash of milk. Do you have a special drink with you?
I have tea too, but I wish that I had a brown sugar iced latte, just like the character in the book that we're going to talk about today, because I have been craving it ever since I read the book. So I think this afternoon I'm going to go out and have one.
Yeah, good choice. So I'm super excited today because we're talking about Emily Henry's latest novel, Great Big Beautiful Life. It's the book of the summer.
Yes, and it was even it's even part of the Reese Witherspoon book club. So
I didn't know.
yeah, I think it's the pick for May.
Okay, good pick. So maybe we can start with a bit of context about Emily Henry, because before Great Big Beautiful Life swept us away, Emily Henry already had us hooked. She's the woman behind the modern romance renaissance. She's an American author. She had a big breakout moment in 2020 with Beach Read. And no, it wasn't just another rom-com by the beach. It was smart, funny, with layers. It absolutely smashed the romances fluff stereotype. Critics and readers were obsessed. I know, I was obsessed. And she followed it up with 3 more hits.
Yeah, and what you said about the romance is fluff. We like fluff, right? Like we love it. But I do agree that Emily Henry's books are so much more than romance novels. They have depth, they have very strong storylines and strong characters that have, as you said in our previous episode, you like characters with trauma in the past. And yeah,
I'm not weird at all.
no context to my sentence, but just to say that she's a really good writer. And I'm impressed that she's able to write a book each year. That's a very hard thing to do.
And maybe before we start talking about this specific book, we can talk a bit about our 3 favorites ones, our 3 top recommendations. The first is People We Meet on Vacation.
Yes, that's the one I read and I loved it.
Yeah. It's about best friends. They have a complicated history. There's stubborn tension and a vacation that will either fix everything or break them for good. I won't say more. Read the book.
Yeah, read the book, but also the movie is going to be out this summer if everything goes according to
This
plan.
summer? I thought it was 2026.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, the internet lied to me because I checked it out and I saw that it was summer 2025 and I was confused because now that you say it's 2026, it makes sense because when I read 2025, I was like, but there is no release date and we're already like in June. But that makes sense because it's going to be
2026.
next year. Oh
I'm
my
quite
God.
sure.
I have to wait one more
False
year.
alarm, false alarm.
But I will say that I love the casts, the 2 people that they cast for the movie. I'm excited.
My favorite from Emily Henry, Book Lovers. It's for the literary girlies. That's why I like it. It's enemies to lovers, meets publishing industry satire. It's a true love letter to ambitious women. Read it. The final one, Happy Place, about fake dating exes at a friend reunion. Very specific, there's grief and healing and gorgeous emotional depth. So it's a must read for me too.
I think you got me at fake dating exes at a friend reunion.
Quite messy.
And from what you just told us, Barbara, we get that in the end, each of her book is different with a very different atmosphere. But I think the common element in all of her books is the very smart dialogue that she writes and the very emotional and honest characters that she's able to build for us.
Yeah, and she's also a great communicator. She is incredible online. Like social media, it's like you're chatting with a bookish bestie. She's a dream author for every marketer out there. I know, I'm a marketer.
You know how old she is? I'm
I maybe early 30s.
early 30s. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm impressed because she's like basically our age, right?
yeah, and she wrote so many books already. I'm super impressed. And we talk a bit about the movie.
Yeah.
And you talk about the actors, but we didn't specify, but Tom Blythe from Hunger Games and Emily Bader is Poppy. And Emily Bader, I don't know. I hope I don't mispronounce it. But she played in Lady Jane. I don't know if you watch this series on Amazon Prime.
I watched maybe 2/3 of the series and I stopped.
I'm curious to know your thoughts.
Okay, I liked the goofy atmosphere, the fact that they decided to tell a historical tale, like something that really happened, like because it's history. What happened in this Jane Grey, who was Queen of England for I don't know a week or something.
Yeah. 13 days, I think.
13 days, yeah. So I liked what they did, but it was not enough for me to be so invested that I watched everything. And I really liked the cast, even the other main character. I don't know the name of the actor. He plays in A Discovery of Witches.
Yeah, Edward Blumel.
Maybe you know better.
Okay, side note. I don't know if we will include this in the podcast, but I was talking with you about doing a special episode next year at the biggest book festival in the UK. It's in Wales, Ace Festival. And this week we talk about our common obsession for the actor Matthew Good, who plays in The Discoverable Witches. And I was scrolling on TikTok. Now I have bookish content and things about Ace Festival. And Matthew Good was in Ace Festival yesterday doing a conference. So I tell you, next year, you're coming to visit me. Yes. And we'll be at Ace Festival. We'll just pray we see Matthew Good or Edward Blumel. We never know.
I love him so much. Okay, I'm down for that. We were sidetracked, but it was for a good reason.
Yeah, Matthew Good is always a good reason. What say?
But yeah, we're very excited about People We Meet on Vacation as a movie.
Yeah, and Beach Read is also option, but it's a little further back in the pipeline. So we'll see another couple on the screen.
It's good. I have time to read the book before they're gonna it. Good.
So we sidetrack a bit, but we're back to Great Big Beautiful Life. So just a brief plot overview for you listeners. The story centers on two writers, a book about writers. It's not too long. We follow Alice. She's a journalist seeking a big break, and Aidan is a Pulitzer Prize-winning biographer. He's very well known in the industry. And both are invited to Little Crescent Island. That's so cute. To interview a reclusive heiress, Margaret Eves, with the goal of writing a biography.
Yeah. And so Margaret, she's a tabloid sensation and she was married to a very famous rock star, Cosmo Sinclair. What a cool name, Cosmo Sinclair. And so she invites those two writers to maybe write her story because what she proposes to them is a 1-month trial period. And she's going to pay them for 1 month to see which one she wants in the end to write the actual book. So we have this dynamic of competition between Alice and Hayden, but also a lot of secrets. From the start, we get that Margaret is very secretive. Hayden too, actually, as a character. And yeah, we have this unexpected connection between Alice and Hayden that is going to be
a love story. Yeah. And what's really interesting is we have a dual timeline. So we learn about Margaret's life story, and we have the present timeline, of course, with Alice and Aiden. I don't know if I mispronounce it too, like Aiden. You said the book, so
I listened to the book, and so it's Margaret Ives. At first, I thought it was like a hive. Anyway, Margaret Ives and Hayden. What's his last name? I forgot. Hayden
so
something.
Aiden.
Yeah. And
So we follow Margaret and Alice and Aiden relationship. So maybe we can talk a bit about the characters.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that Alice is portrayed as an eternal optimist. So she's warm and there's determination. She's driven in her pursuit of Margaret's story. And we follow her journey, and it's not just about her professional career. It's also deeply personal because she seeks validation and a sense of purpose.
And on the opposite side, we have Hayden, a very different energy. He's more reserved, he's analytical, but also he's our grumpy Mr. Darcy character at the beginning. When he first interacts with Alice, we can see that he's very guarded, but also not ready for opening up to people. And at the beginning, we think either he's a jerk and just rude, or he's just shy and deep down a very nice guy. But so yeah, from the start we have this tension and this competition between them.
Actually, it's another trope, like a grumpy against sunshine.
Yeah. The funny thing is, when I first read the book, I was thinking, okay, does this fall in the category of work romance? Because they're writers, so it could be work. And then I was like, maybe it's enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
But then when I saw the list of 21 tropes, I was like, okay, no, this is the grump and sunshine trope. Yeah, I agree.
And there's a third main character, of course, Margaret herself. She's fascinating, and she has so many secrets, and she reveals one secret after the other. So she's enigmatic. She challenges like both Alice and Aiden. They question like the nature of truth, the stories we choose to tell. So there's a past intertwined with historical events, with personal tragedies. And that's funny because I read critics and they said they didn't like this dual timeline, and I really liked it. So could be
Okay, I
interesting
liked it too.
discussion.
I think it's a strong element to the story, and Emily Henry did a really good job at including it in the main storyline of the romance between Hayden and Alice. And I don't know what you think about that, but so she not alternates, but a few chapters are not numbered, and it's called The Story.
Yeah.
And we understand that it's Alice writing Margaret's story, and it's like her future book or whatever. And I really like those chapters because it's, in terms of the pace of the story, it just added something different.
Yeah, it adds depth to the narrative, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so I like that, and I'm surprised that she got that negative feedback.
Yeah.
And talking about negative feedback, I was, I have my notes with me, and I was writing some notes on the book when I was reading it, and it was really hard for me to find negative. I was like, okay, I'm gonna write my tops and flops for this book, and it was until the end that I could not.
You're so organized.
I try to be because I'm always scared of forgetting stuff. But yeah, it was really hard for me to find flops because the book is so well written. The characters, if I'm honest, when I got into the book, I did not know what to expect. And the whole Margaret, like the whole story of her family, her curse, let's say, the Ives curse, I think they call it in the book. I was not expecting this story on a famous family and their not downfall, but the hardships that they went through.
And it's interesting because, and I always think when we hear or read something about famous people, we never know what's the real story behind. We know what the media covers.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this, you're going to think I'm niche there. But when I was watching The Crown on Netflix, I was thinking that's not even the official story.
Yeah.
But we don't know what really happened behind closed doors, because she talks about the subjectivity of storytelling. You end up thinking about what's the real truth. What's the truth? Is it your story? Is it the story from the other person who lived the situation with you? You know, it's so subjective in the end.
Yeah. And I was confused at the beginning so basically the novel starts with Alice meeting Margaret for this gig of writing her story as a book.
Mm.
And I think one of the first things that Margaret tells her is she's interested in the truth, writing a story that's the truth and not really her side of the story. And what's really funny is Margaret ends up not doing this at all, because she keeps not lying, but keeping information from Alice and Hayden throughout the book. And so we understand that it's very hard to both want the truth, but also wanting to keep information, because Margaret, she was raised in this very public family. And so all of her life has been publicized, and it must be really hard. Like she suffered. Her husband was a rock star. So that was also a fuel for the media. And the funny thing is her family owned media. So they owned newspapers and media outlets.
There's so many different topics in the book, because you have, of course, it's a love story, but you have the media. What does it mean to be famous, and how do you live? Secrets, truth, the past, other relationships, and not just Alice and Aidan, like past relationship, Margaret, the relationship with your family, with Alice's mom, with her sister. There's grief, death, money, work, like basically everything that makes you human. So I love it. I think it was like lyrical, precise. It captures like the nuances of everything.
Yeah. Are we gonna talk about the ending and the spoilers or not?
Try to talk about the ending without spoiling, please.
Okay, so we don't want to tell people.
I know you read the end, but we're not all like you, Mary.
But what I will say is, I have a talent, which is spoiling myself without even meaning to. So what happened is I was listening to the book, and since it's Margaret telling her story and telling the story of her family, like her great grandfather, her grandfather, whatever, like all the generations of Ives, I was like, okay, I need a family tree. So I went online. But the problem is, and sorry for the listeners who are going to consider this is a spoiler, but there were spoilers in the family tree that I saw because I was researching it to understand better what I was reading.
Okay.
But I got spoiled because of that, and that was not intentional. So, okay, we're not gonna give out the elements that I was, thinking about. That's okay. We can talk about what we really liked about the book. And one thing that I wanted to say is love the chemistry between Alice and Hayden. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that it's a love story and our characters are going to end up together, because guys, you're reading a romance novel. Like if it doesn't end like that, then, something's wrong.
We need to dream, please.
But what I like is the build up and the fact that it's both a slow burn, but also this tension from the start. Like from the start, they have this, they're like magnets, with each other. And I really think their differences, him being like a grumpy character and her being this very light sunshine person, it really works well. I know it's a bit stereotypical to have, this, contrast, but at the same time, I don't know, it just worked really well. And I just want to mention one quote that I wrote that was so funny. So Alice tells Hayden, I don't remember why. And she's like, you sound like a robot learning to love.
Love
And
this.
I was like, it sums up really well how like he's not comfortable with emotions, I think. Or at least that's what he gives out when you meet him.
Okay, interesting.
Is there something that struck you that you really liked in the book?
You're gonna be surprised because it's not the love story I preferred. First time I say this in my life. Because, and I know it was a critic from some people in regards to Emily Henry past work, because in the other books, she was super focused on the love story. But what I really like, it's what I was talking about like a few minutes ago. It's all the characters, all the things she addresses in the book, not just the love story, because it's a complex narrative. And there's so many different subjects. And again, because I love when people are acting for once as adults and working on themselves, and there's healing and trauma too. And the dynamic too between both of them, because they're competing against each other in their work, because they want to get the gig at the end and write Margaret's biography. So yeah, everything from work to family to the love story. And it was not steamy. Like, I really liked how I think 2 sex scenes were described. It was just beautiful.
Yeah. The only thing that I will say is, because I had to find flaws, right? I was like, it cannot be perfect.
Yeah.
So one thing that I did not like, the sex scenes were great. Like, I'm not going to say that they were not great, but they have this thing between them of saying, we should not hook up before we know which one of us is going to get the job. And the only thing that I thought was not really modern of them, or like of her writing, is they do kind of hook up. You still like hooked up. Like, what you did before is still hooking up. So, but it's just that I feel like nowadays any or several sexual acts would be considered as having sex anyway. So that's just the thing that I was a bit not confused, but
Very specific.
it's very specific. I know. Well, I mean, there are other things that I did not like. And I will say that the fact that the ending felt really fast for me.
I agree.
Because the book is perfect in so many ways. The characters are very interesting. Everything that's happening, as you said, like different relationships, Alice with her mom, we have very interesting characters and very interesting story. But at the end, it really felt rushed. And I don't know if it's because she felt like her book was long enough and decided to like shorten the ending, but there are 2 chapters. A lot of things happen in 2 chapters.
Yeah.
And
And we have the epilogue, and it's only like 3 or 4 pages.
yeah. So I was just disappointed in the ending, because she could have, I mean, it's good that the book, I don't know how many pages it is, but it's the perfect length, but it's just, why rush the ending? So yeah, that's my only the only flaws that I could find.
So what's your rating?
Okay, my rating, I already gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. There is no suspense here. I already gave it 5 stars. It deserves a 5-star rating. She's really good at writing books. So really, like, good job to her. She managed to write a different story than what we can find. At least I think, as I said in our previous episode, I'm a newbie in romance novels, but still, her writing is just, I'm at loss of words, because I cannot express how good she is. And it's not sad, but I'm surprised that I waited so long to read her books, because I started with People We Meet on Vacation recently and then read that one. And I want to read them all, because she, as you said in our previous episode, there are some authors that you trust with what they're going to write. Same with, I have in mind, for example, Madeline Miller. She's going to write a book on Persephone and Hades. And I'm like, I know I'm going to buy it and read it. I trust her. And so, yeah, I would trust anything she writes, and I hope she never loses her spark because, as I said, like writing, one book a year is impressive, but
If
she
you're lucky,
deserves all
you'll have like 30 more books.
yeah, but she really deserves all of the hype around her books.
Yeah, and I can't wait for the movies, adaptation, series. And I hope it will be good because we know that when you go from the book to the adaptation, quite often it's
Things
not
can
like
happen.
what you imagine.
Things can happen. But what's your rating? Do you agree with me
Oh,
that it deserves?
10 stars on 5.
Yeah, that's. Wait, is it now that you have read this one? Which Emily Henry is your favorite?
It's still Book Lovers. I don't know if it's because when I read Book Lovers, it was like a special time for me in my personal life and I related so much to the character.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will be Book Lovers and then Great Big Beautiful Life.
Okay. And before we end, I was wondering why she chose this title because
I was surprised at the end when she said the sentence with the
yeah,
title.
it's like I don't know if it's that she felt the need to explain her title and that's why she literally wrote it at the end of the novel. But yeah,
I cried when I read the title because I think, or what is my interpretation,
Yeah.
is that because of all these characters, all these side stories in the book, my conclusion is a life. It's not straight. You're going to take so many different roads. You're going to meet so many different people and choose different paths.
Yeah.
And then because of meeting this person, because of choosing to move or to do something different with your life, you're going to create other lives too.
Yeah.
And at the end, it's great. It's big. It's beautiful. And also you can't have the beautiful if you don't have the darkness and grief and sad and all that we consider to be bad. It's actually the recipe to being able to find happiness.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm turning philosophical. What's happening?
No, it's this book, making us philosophers because
Yeah.
the main character who's telling the story, Alice, she can seem like a very naive, optimistic person, but in the end, she chooses to be optimistic. She knows that bad things happen, like as you said, she lost her dad. He died some years ago, so she knows what sadness is. It's just that she chooses to see what's bright too. So no, I that's Emily Henry turning us into philosophers, and
Yeah. So I think that wraps our deep dive into Great Big Beautiful Life. It's really, you understand it's a novel that stays with you and turns you into a philosopher.
yeah, and hopefully you guys will read this gem. And until then, until we talk about our next books,
Yeah.
happy reading.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this chapter of Book Nook. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Book Nook the podcast for more bookish fun. And we'll see you next time. Until then, happy reading!